live in 3, 2. Good evening, and welcome to Fanaddicts, or Sci-Fanaddicts. Sci-Fi Fanatics. Sci-Fanatics? Sci-Fi Fanatics. as we're being called.
Yeah, that's safe in your attics.
So, my name is Joe, and this is my good friend Ben.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us, and tonight we're going to talk about last night's episode of The Walking Dead.
Oh my gosh.
It is Season 8, Episode 9, and after near 2-month break, we're back, and
Yeah.
what a good mid-season
Yeah.
opener.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this really hit me hard. And you know what actually really surprised me? I actually completely forgot. I hadn't rewatched or anything, and I completely had forgotten that the finale was, of course, Carl showing him his and that's what it was. And we're seeing is the bite. Spoilers.
There will be spoilers, just so that you're aware, but we're talking about this bite mark right here, or approximation of. I think that's probably actually the shirt prop. Somebody in the set probably took this photo. Please don't sue. It's a great image. But yeah, that's, one thing about somebody trying to keep up with so many television shows, whether I love them or not, obviously you start to forget, and you can't constantly go back and rewatch something before it comes back. But that was not something I forgot, because I thought that was, I knew it was coming. Not that there were any spoilers, but I mean, if you're a fan of the comic and you've kind of read that far, you knew that they were kind of going into that direction, and it was a bit of a surprise, but yeah, I dealt with it really well.
I had no idea that they were going. I mean, you of course you read the comic. I don't.
Not religiously, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it surprised the heck out of me. And especially one of the things that really threw me off, or that I was actually really excited about this episode specifically, was that all last season you see at the beginning of almost every episode, well, it's like every other episode, you see Rick kind of gazing into the sunlight with the tears coming in, and he's, you see the stained glass of
The sort of reflection
off of his eyes, and he's got his line, my mercy outweighs my wrath. And you see him say that so many times. Oh my gosh! And so it's like you think you're finally going to see that. You don't really, or do we? I can't remember.
Well, so before you would see kind of like this image here, sitting down with the tree behind him, and you'd see the sort of reflection, but you didn't know what it was, what the context was, and this episode kind of shed a little bit more light onto it, and they're kind of, dishing out just a little bit at a time.
This is where we finally find out that it's stained glass.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, you're wondering what is all that different light reflection? I mean, it's got to be some kind of, but yeah, it's stained glass window, like a sign. Is it a sign? It was a sign that was hanging right.
Two of them. I remember distinctly. I remember distinctly there were two stained glass windows or signs or something. Stained glass of some sort hanging from a tree.
Yeah.
Bizarre stuff. But we're still not getting that whole scene, or have we yet? I can't remember.
No, I think this is I think little by little they're giving us just a little bit more each time. And by the way, so this was Season 8, Episode 9. It's called Honor, by the way. And if you haven't seen it, don't, by all means, wait till you watch it to listen to us, because we're definitely going to spoil the heck out of this.
So if you're watching this now and you have not seen the Honor episode, it's too damn late. I'm sorry, we screwed you up, but you just go away now. Anyway, thanks for joining us. But if you haven't seen the video, if you haven't seen the episode yet, go watch the episode, then come back. Please come back.
Please come back. And by the way, I think unless maybe you kind of dead inside, this was me like most of that episode.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Kind of got you right in the gut, huh?
Dude, everybody I've talked to has been pretty much riding on their own tears throughout this, or at least have been. I don't know who says that, riding their own tears.
And we're going to say it now.
I ride my own tears. And,
Hashtag riding my own tears.
Riding my own tears, and that there in the backwoods.
Yeah, so been good season so far. The Walking Dead it's a show that I love to watch. I can't say that I love every episode or even some seasons, or it's a hard kind of show to do.
I think it's progressively gotten better. That's
Yes.
one of the very few shows that has progressively gotten better with every single season. And I talked to a lot of people.
You don't think Breaking Bad got better with each season?
Okay, well, yes.
Good shows do get better. They overcome their lulls and I think get better with each season.
Something that ends in ing and D at the end.
Yeah.
Ing D. 2 words. Okay.
And if it's on AMC too.
Yeah.
You know, some shows you hope get better, and then they get worse, Heroes, and then they do a follow-up many years later that's good again. But this show definitely keeps getting better. This season so far has been really satisfactory. I really got a kick out of the season finale, watching Negan and Rick go toe-to-toe and seeing Negan get a little taste. Finally, somebody kind of shutting his mouth up for a minute, which I like, because he's a good villain, but he's a little talks too much kind of villain, you know? Like, I kind of look for more a darker approach to villainy, I suppose, than the talk too much. But the fight scene was awesome between those two.
I did fall in love with him as a villain, or kind of villainous character as the comedian in Watchmen, of course.
Yeah.
And so it's like so many people out there. I know that you see him as Negan, but we saw him as the Watchmen comedian first for a long time ago. And anyway, being this kind of dark anti-hero character, whatever. But more back onto the episode. More just wanted to kind of just how much emotion it was. I mean, I know that some people may not like this whole montage thing. I was really thoroughly moved here with Carl and the Conor Oberst song. I love that song and brought a lot of memories back for me. But I just had all these. Anyway, it was really.
Bright Eyes or Conor Oberst solo?
It's actually. You know what? Forgive me. It is
Bright Eyes. That's what I thought. Yeah. I have to say, not being much of a Bright Eyes fan, that moment during the montage, and generally not a huge fan of montages. That they can be a little overused. They can be used well. But that was a moment where I did actually kind of step away for a minute to grab some laundry. I apologize. Don't shoot me. But I got right back into the story as soon as... Usually I leave it for the opening credits. It's not my favorite theme song. It's a little... Opening sequences that are a minute or longer, I do get a little short attention span with. That's why I like my opening sequences short and sweet. So when that music comes on, it's usually like, okay, I can go grab laundry. Because for some reason I do laundry while I'm watching the show. Laundry and dinner while I'm watching The Walking Dead on a Sunday night.
Specifically, it's like...
Yeah, it's always The Walking Dead.
It's Walking Dead and laundry time, oh my gosh. So
it just happens. It airs at the right time.
So this scene, I'm dying to know. I can't remember this scene. Forgive me, anybody in the comments or whose idea was it? Was it Sadiq's idea or was it Carl's idea to go down in the sewer?
Oh, it was Carl's.
Sewer. So it was Carl's.
Yeah.
So he's like, I got bitten, and that was. He's like, you got to put me down here. Is that what this is? Is that his?
Well, he didn't let
reasoning?
anybody. He didn't let
him
anybody
know. Well, Sadiq knows at this point.
Well, Sadiq asked him if he was okay, and he said he was fine. I don't think Sadiq saw him get... I'd have to rewatch that
Anyway.
quick opening scene, but yeah, it was Carl's idea to go down there. Carl saves the town in this episode.
He really does. But what was his reasoning? Do you remember it? Anyway, I guess it's not that important, but it kind of is.
Yeah, because
What was his reasoning for going down there?
Well, that's where everybody else is. Everybody else kind of went down
Well, I know,
the sewers.
but it was his idea in the first place.
Yeah. It was so they distracted everybody from Negan's.
And so he
crew.
was just thinking ahead.
So
That's all it
yeah,
was.
because remember, he basically
He knew they were coming.
in the season finale. Michonne they knew they were coming. Michonne kind of let him call the shots on getting everyone out of town, and that's where he had the bright idea of, putting up all the smoke and well, there was also the fires going on, but like using the sewer system to get everybody out. In fact, they hide in most of the episode. They're actually hiding in the sewer system. You can hear the kind of explosions going on in the outside, and it's kind of surprising to me that they didn't think to look in the sewers, or I guess they didn't see the sewer thing. But
yeah, it is kind of an odd thing. One of the things that this band I used to tour with all the time, we used to always make fun of, because we talk about movies, and like we used to always make fun of films that it's like whenever, or TV shows, whatever you see, it's like whenever they go down to the sewer, it's always this huge open area, but it's really not. If you ever look down, it's not very open. It's not this huge giant. It's like you can't walk around in the sewer really. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
It's like I don't. Anyway, I'm just not a. I'm not really a fan of this. Like Alien versus Predator. Got aliens. You got all this stuff. You got predators, and then you got the sewer. So it's like no, that's the third thing I don't want in this movie. Anyway, sorry.
No, I get it. Like the production design in the sewer is very believable. It's very small and claustrophobic. Probably stinks, but considering nobody's really had a bath for a few days, I'm sure nobody's complaining. Just happy to not be killed by Negan's horde. What do they call themselves again?
The Saviors.
The Saviors.
It's like I want someone to say like, "Don't call them that, damn it," or so, I don't know, something. Yeah, let's move on. Let's continue.
Carl.
So yeah, that's one of the things you hate is forgive me,
Andrew Lincoln.
Andrew Lincoln's Southern accents. You're not a fan.
Well, it's kind of, I think. I mean, he's an English actor, and I think he's doing a good job. But I can hear it. I know a lot of people think that British actors do impeccable American accents, but Americans can't do English accents. I think it's all in the actor themselves, with the exception of the Australians. For some reason, Aussies are perfect at doing any kind of American accent. So that I've heard so far. It's really surprising to me, but it's the way he says Carl. Like it's become something me and my friends joke around about. Like Carl. It's even in this episode, I did kind of chuckle when he's like, Carl, no. Just thought, okay, I've been to Atlanta. Whatever. It's okay. It still works. It's believable.
Isn't your family from Tennessee? Aren't you?
Tennessee, but Tennessee and Georgia do have different accents. The southern part of the United States, each state has its own different,
specific.
kind of like here in the West, we sound different than Californians here in Utah.
And can you pick out these accents and go, he's from so, or she's from so and so, he's from so and so? Can you pick these out?
Sometimes, some of the accents I do get a little confused, like the Missouri, and
I actually met a guy. I actually met a guy once that was from Missouri, and he was just like, Missouri? No, you don't.
Yeah.
He was very, anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's like New Orleans and Orleans.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it's just, it feels like there's just this it's just it's just a word that the way Andrew Lincoln says it that just stands out to me. So I just think it's kind of humorous, Carl. But I digress.
Anyway.
Very heartbreaking episode because Carl's character, I think, has grown a lot, obviously, as the actor's grown. He's gone through a few phases in the show where, of course, being an adult now, you look back and you go, God, man, kids, teenagers, they got all those hormones. Like, quit being a rebel. You're facing constant death at all times. But I think he actually came into his own as a good character.
I think if I was like 12 or 13 and it was the apocalypse, I would probably be still pissed off and rebellious like I was when I was 12 or 13. I don't know, I have no idea. But yeah, honestly, like, you're not a huge fan of Carl. I have always been a huge fan of Carl. When he lost his eye, oh my gosh, that episode, wow. And just everything he's been through, the things he's learned, how close he becomes with Carol, and everybody. He really
becomes really close with Michonne.
Michonne and that whole, yeah.
That was heartbreaking. The
oh my gosh.
Moment where he's telling Michonne, so in the story, Carl was bitten from the season finale, and he meets with everyone that survived in the sewers. Interesting too, because usually when there's an attack on wherever they're fortifying, everybody kind of splits up into groups, and then you spend episodes, if not seasons, with them regrouping.
Yeah.
They didn't do that this time, which was good because I don't want that to happen at this point because we've seen it happen. So it was good to see them all together. But that moment where kind of everybody has to go, and Michonne wants Rick to move Carl because he should die in this dingy sewer. And Rick's adamant that he can't he'll die. We can't get him out. And they stay with Carl, till the end. Of course, eventually at the last minute, Rick decides, yeah, this isn't the place where my son needs to go. But that scene where he tells Michonne,
he's just like, let's get him out of here. I mean, he's just really like, let's get him out of this. They are in the sewer, so he's like, let's get him out of this.
Yeah. And just when Carl says to Michonne that you're my best friend, that got me. But when she responded back, "You're my best friend," oh man, they'd grown really close. It's not that I'm not a huge fan of Carl, but Carl's one of many characters on the show. You always have the characters in any show you watch that you root for, and you like them all or you don't. But he's a character that at times has annoyed me, at times I've rooted for. Like most of the long-running characters on the show, he's grown as a character, and you got many, these multifaceted characters, multiple levels, where some of the villains have been kind of more one-dimensional. But there's other characters on the show that I love more that I don't want to see go. I'm not saying that having Carl gone is going to not change the show, because it will. Just like with Glenn and Abraham and everybody else that's come and gone, that was a big part of it. But I'm just saying at least it wasn't Michonne, because that really would have messed up the dynamic for me. But that's just me.
And just retrospect real quick about the separating. It's always been about, like, every season they all end up separating and doing stupid stuff. Or stupid things where they just, we got to be separated, do our separate things, and that way we're vulnerable, and therefore, and then that's when the chance on the Sabres can kill us all because we're all separated.
Or even just circumstances. Because they got to run one direction,
Yeah. Anyway, and I'm just glad that didn't happen. But anyway, this is the scene where, or at least it looks like the scene where he's one of the scenes. He's got a hat on, so he's talking about. He mentions the hat. He talks about how the hat has kept him close to his dad, even when he's not. And he specifically talks about the hat and how it kept him close. Wanted to be strong like his father and everything. All these really great things. All these great moments that he went through, and he ends up giving the hat, or at least saying,
he bequeaths it to
Judith. Yeah, gives it to Judith, and it's like, and one thing that I think would have been really cool, which they obviously didn't do, but in his future head, his future vision that he saw.
He has kind of a vision that he tells his dad.
Which would have been cool. It would have been cool to see Judith wearing the hat.
That's right. She
in this,
do that.
In this future scene, and they didn't show it. They show her. She's like, what? Is probably about 3 or 4 years older.
Yeah.
Something like that, and she's running around and stuff, and it would have been cool to see the hat. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it. I just thought about that right now. But anyway.
No, I agree. I actually, now that I think about it, so Carl, sort of on his deathbed in the sewer, and I think it's kind of one of the reasons why Rick decides to take him out of there is Carl kind of is telling his dad, you need to go back to being the guy you were before all this started, the guy you can be, the hero, the leader, instead of kind of going down this dark, violent path that it kind of mirrors Negan. They're kind of polar opposites of one another.
And really quick, I just want to say, like, I thought Carl was going to be a long-lasting character, and I thought he was going to be there until the end of the show. I'm just so surprised. Anyway.
Well, and so he kind of mentions to Rick this.
Well, he would be a leader.
What he sees in the future, or kind of a vision that he's had.
Yeah.
And I was actually, so that was really moving, and we're going to get into that in a little bit later. But before that happens, it's kind of a time to say goodbye, and I was actually kind of surprised that really only Daryl and Siddig, the gentleman that he saved that caused him to get bit, were really the only ones that said goodbye. I thought there would be more. Yeah. Okay, I do take that back. The team did split up. That brings us to the other subplot of the episode. Duh. They do kind of split up because Morgan and Carol are trying to rescue Ezekiel, so they have their story going on. They're still on the same compound. It's just the group's underground, and they're moving on, and those guys are above. But no, because Ezekiel's in the kingdom, so they are in a different place. But but other than that, I mean, I really kind of thought that there would be a moment where more of the characters of the show who knew Carl would be saying their goodbyes. So it's a little. I felt a little like
Daryl
could have been a little bit more.
Well, especially with Daryl, he just kind of gives them kind of a nod.
Yeah,
that's all. He just kind of gives them a nod and just says, "See ya." And that's that's Daryl's thing, though. And that's actually, like, we're complaining about it, but that's kind of what Daryl does. He just kind of gives people nods,
except for Rick.
They
hug a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So anyway, that's an interesting
thought so.
But yeah, this whole scene I thought it was really interesting too, the way that Carl gets bit. He realizes what's going to happen.
And it's weird too.
He has a self-reflective moment.
Just a real quick thing. I'm sorry.
No,
the beginning of this whole episode, you see him just push. And it's like you don't even see how he got into this predicament. And I guess it's not important at this point. It's like the importance is him.
Which predicament?
Well, because you just see him. It shows at the beginning of this episode. You show him pulling off the dead.
Yeah, he's holding back one zombie, and then he feels the bite.
But we don't know how he got there, or do we? Anyway.
Yeah, that was at the end of the last.
Oh, okay. So my fault for not getting up on it. Anyway,
it's okay.
Really crazy stuff because it took me by surprise.
But I like the moments. So he kind of comes to terms in a very mature way. In fact, he actually showed a lot of maturity in this episode.
Yeah, he
more
did.
so than he ever has. Of course, facing death, and he did it with a very mature way. And kudos to the acting in this episode. I like the fact that he takes a moment to feel the sun on his face, and he takes some time to write some letters to all the people that meant a lot to him, so that later on down the road, they might not go into it in depth, but later on down the road, these characters are going to find these notes, and it's just going to be another heart-wrenching moment.
And this whole time while he's writing notes, you literally think, okay, yeah, he's gonna nobody's gonna see him, because you see everybody separate, and then he's trying to look for people to say goodbye to them or whatever, to tell them what's going on. And Michonne's gone, everybody's gone, and so you literally think, well, okay, well, he could just go and not say goodbye to anybody, and just and have everybody just like tearing their eyeballs out, going, oh my gosh,
It's just sad. So.
And in the other storyline, the other subplot that's going on here is. Ezekiel getting rescued by Morgan and Carol, and that's a really Morgan. He seems like over the series he's just become extremely unhinged. And the episode, what was it, season 4, where he's he's in the cage, and he's being trained by the monk,
going through his
clearing.
Yeah,
he's just got to clear this.
Yeah. So it seems like since he went kind of feral, it's a fine line. He doesn't like doing the killing, and he doesn't, for a long time he refused to kill anybody, and then this season he's realized that some people have to die, I suppose, in order to live. And so he walks a very fine line between keeping that balance and possibly going crazy. And the one thing I don't want him to do, which with this show anything goes, because they don't usually like to be predictable, he could very well go crazy and be a threat to the whole team, and Rick may have to put him down, or Carol or Michonne, and we don't want to see that. But this episode, I think, really plays on that frailty that Lenny James brings to the role. He's a very, very good actor. His English accent, or American accent's very good. He's another English actor, and he really brings. Morgan's a character I look forward to.
And then Carol gives him some looks. She's looking back at him like, because he's doing. He's just.
Yeah.
and Carol's just looking back. She's just like, okay, we gotta reel you in, boy, because you can tell it's like, because Carol went through all those things, and
she's got a similar path.
And you've seen her veer off and come back, and she's become so many different things. But I think she'll be the one to reel him back in. Hopefully, if we can reel him back in, because I think we're finding him to kind of
lose it a little bit. He's
Yeah.
really losing it.
Well, and it took her, so they go to rescue Ezekiel. We're gonna move on with some images here. Blood splattered Carol, of course. I have to say that that's one thing I do like about characters like Morgan and Carol, is that they still kind of hold on to the morality of the world before the Walkers, and they don't necessarily want to just kill everybody. And it deeply pains them, like it's something that they have to live with, where a lot of other characters are able to do it and then just kind of move on because they've accepted that that's the life that they're in. But I think characters like Morgan and even Rick and Carol and Daryl, I think that they're hoping, obviously, that life will kind of go back to normality and we can all be moral again, so they don't want to lose themselves too much. Where it seemed like Abraham, even though he wasn't the most violent of the group, he never really seemed to regret whenever he had to kill anybody. You know what I mean? Like there's this sort of pained heroism to some of these characters, and that's intriguing to me because that's more complex, I believe.
And that reminds me of like the continuous paradox that we see in a lot of characters who you seen become these powerful villains, etc. They were nobodies before this happened. These people, and so to them, they're in kind of a paradise moment. Yeah, that's how we were just they're nobodies in there in the pre-apocalyptic world, but then they become these powerful beings like. And just a quick shout out to like the Fear of the Walking Dead. There's a lot of that going on. You see more people kind of become it's like this is great. This is they're like we're in paradise. This is what I was born for. This is what this world is what I was born for. So and then there's a lot of that. You see a lot of characters develop that, and it's just scary. It's scary because it's so realistic, and that's one of the things that I love about the show is that you see the real threat are actual humans, not the dead, not these other things. But anyway, crazy stuff. So anyway.
Well, and I think you see that a lot in sort of post-apocalyptic scenarios, shows like Survivors and which Survivors, old British series from the mid-70s.
Not Survivor,
but Survivors. BBC series created by Terry Nations, the creator of the Daleks on Doctor Who, and Blake Seven, another BBC sci-fi series. Basically, a virus wipes out the majority of the population in the world, and it's all about people trying to survive and rebuild. And of course, you've got people that were at the low end of their pecking order of their lives are suddenly rising to power because they're put in positions that bring out something in them. And so it is kind of a trope that you have in a lot of post-apocalyptic stuff. I mean, you could even argue that Mad Max becomes a better survivor and hero because of the apocalypse, but it's all in the writing and the characterization. If you have a guy that just goes from being a nobody to a villain, it's not as interesting unless you give him a good backstory as to how they get that, how they get there. And The Walking Dead has done that a lot. I mean, we got to really see how not so much that we saw the governor's life beforehand, but we got an inkling of what kind of person he was. Or Morgan, family man, ordinary job, and just how this life with the Walking Dead basically like changes them all into these different characters.
So this scene or this image, oh my gosh, I was blown away at how well Carl. I did not think Carl was going to get to say goodbye, and he does. You get a whole episode of him saying goodbye to all his loved ones, Michonne and Rick, of course, and man. Just tragic and beautiful and sad and anyway, just awful,
heart-wrenching.
Yeah, it really was
heart-wrenching. I wonder if this episode might get an Emmy nomination, because more so than with any other character that they've had on the show, we've had quick exits for characters that you like. You remember the kid that I forget the actor's name, but he used to play on Everybody Hates Chris. He's trapped with Glenn in the hotel or not in the lobby of the building with the rotating doors, and he's separated by the glass with Glenn. He gets his face just ripped open. I mean, characters that you like just get dispatched real quick in this show, and sometimes they do have a decent death scene, but they've never done anything quite like this, where they really, it walks a fine line between really like dragging it out and being appropriate to the character and the situation. And I think that because he's Rick's child and the nature of their relationship and the fact that he's been a long-running character, I think that they really managed to focus the whole episode on that while also telling the story of the rescue of Ezekiel. And it's a pretty tough balancing act that they pulled off, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely one of my favorite episodes as far as the drama.
And I did love, spoiler alert, I did love that they got Ezekiel out okay. I actually do love his whole story is crazy too. Oh wow, this is crazy. Okay. Yeah.
No, I don't think that's...
Is that from the original comic?
It's from the original comic, but I can't remember if that's Carl or not. I think maybe it's... But it's a comparison. And, The Walking Dead television series, which, like any good adaptation, doesn't follow the comic book, the ongoing comic book series, panel for panel, issue for issue, just like Preacher, and it shouldn't, because then I could read all the books notes and be a smarty pants and say I know what's going to happen, or I could just watch the TV show and never read the comic, and they're two unique experiences, but there's a shared theme, and they do follow similar paths and similar outcomes. They just may not happen in the exact sequence of events in the way that they've done in the comic book, and that's good. That keeps it fresh. And but the sad thing is, though, is that sometimes I do know that some characters aren't going to live because they seem to dispatch characters that have been dispatched in the comic book. So that is one thread that's a similarity, you know.
Yeah, I have not been reading the comic. I did read a few though. I read Michonne's story. I read a few of just the random pieces. So I did enjoy them. But anyway, I love this show. So
Well, and like I said, I don't read it religiously. I don't buy it month to month. What I would do is I had a friend of mine who no longer lives in the state, so I don't get to see him all the time. But he would get the collected trade paperbacks, which have something like 5 or 7 issues per collection, and he had like the first 10 volumes, so that's a lot of issues. So I got like through the first 8 or so. So, and then every now and then, I'm like a kid at Christmas who likes to peek. Sometimes I'll be at the comic book store, and I'll see the trade paperback, and I'm not there yet, but I do a kind of sneak peek because I'm so curious. I want to know what's going on. So sometimes I cheat a little bit and I find out about things that I spoil it for myself, but I enjoy spoilers, so it doesn't really bother me. But this was a whole interesting moment. What is it that Ezekiel says to him, the Savior, who's holding him, basically telling him he's going to die so that he can live?
yeah, I mean, he's basically just saying like, we can, he's saying I'm going to take your or you're going to die, I'm going to live, it's going to be okay. And then there's at one point he's literally just saying like, we can go back to the way it was or whatever. It's like, no.
Something specific.
He says specifically, I remember now. He says, there was one thing that I remember that he said, and he said that you have.
It's not too late.
He said specifically like you had a vision. No, you had our vision. You were okay with it. You accepted it. You accepted the way things were, and you were okay with it. And then Rick had to plant something in you.
Yeah. And then he like, but
I mean
you're thinking of
specifically
something else.
Ezekiel, with Ezekiel says to the guy twice, it's not too late to like undo the decision that's been made. Basically, trying to plead with him like, don't do this because you are going to get killed. These people will kill you. It's not too late. We can still work together.
Still try to work things out.
After all that's been done to Ezekiel, he still tries to remain hopeful. One of my favorite characters, man. Can you believe that?
He's so great.
This is also this actor is also the voice of Cyborg on Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go, as well as most of the DC animated Justice League movies or movies with the Justice League that have featured Cyborg. And it's just, his voice, it's night and day. Like, I don't hear
completely
Cyborg in there, you know what I mean? So, but it's also the eloquent way that Ezekiel speaks. I really like his mannerisms.
He really is great. He gets the best lines.
Yeah.
He's literally speaking out of scripture. But I really loved and it was tragic. Him going, man, I'm just a guy. You remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think it was like 2 or 3 episodes. Literally 2 or 3 episodes ago, and he's literally because that jerk. One guy, one of the saviors, comes out and is just like, "You're just a dude, man. You're just a guy. You're not nothing special."
And he convinces him, man.
Yeah.
I was so.
Well, but
like, no, you're not. You are.
But in this episode, like they go back, where they rescue him from is his throne room.
Yeah.
Where he's been kind of hiding out the last few episodes.
Where he used to keep his tiger.
Being depressed. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I miss the tiger.
That's sad.
I mean, it's badly, and I will say this: it was very obvious CGI. That's okay.
It's what are they gonna do? Have a real tiger?
Right, exactly. So, because we all know how that works out, But it's just the melancholy kind of way he went through, where he even broke his own character and stopped speaking in the Ezekiel way and started speaking to Carol in the regular voice. That every now and then he's broken to let her know that, hey, I'm just playing this role to inspire people and to keep people up. And then he himself, it's a bad scene when Ezekiel stops speaking that way, but when he does start speaking again, you're like, great, he's coming back.
It's infectious hope.
Yeah.
And so many of the characters are brainwashed by it. They're not really brainwashed by it. They know where they are. They know what they're doing. And they know what he is. They know that he's just a person. But the way he speaks to people gives you hope. It gives me hope as just a viewer. And it's amazing.
Anyway, this is such a sad.
This is when they're in the sewer with Carl. This is actually before everyone kind of says their goodbyes. At the same time that's happening, you've got Carol and Morgan rescuing Ezekiel. A little shot of Daryl. We'll kind of speed through some of these. Little shot of Daryl there, kind of watching Carl, and I like the fact that Daryl basically, so everybody's going to be leaving. Rick doesn't feel like Carl will make it if they move him. So he wants to stay with him. Michonne wants to stay with him too, but Carl wants Michonne to take Judith and keep her safe, and Daryl just kind of mans up and says, I got this. I'll take her. But not before Carl says his goodbye to her, where he passes on the hat and she just breaks down. And that scene, when she starts crying, that really got me, because, families, right? Fathers and sons, like, it gets me every time. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the movie Big Fish or, something like this. Like, it just, fathers and sons, man, it just gets me every time. And he's got Judith with him when he says goodbye to Carl. And again, it's kind of more like a nod, which is, it's his thing. I did kind of feel like he probably would have hugged Carl, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I guess I didn't even notice that until you pointed it out. Like he was just taking off, and I was like, oh, but like the way he did, he took off.
You really say,
Well, because the way he took off, he was just like it was as if he was going to be seeing him again. It was as
he didn't treat it any different.
Yeah, he was like. He's literally saying, "I love you, man. I love you, but I know that I won't see it." And it was surprising because anyway.
No, I'm just gonna say I agree with you. I think that's probably the best way that a character like Daryl could even do it, since he's not, overly emotional to begin with. But yeah, I think he just kind of, maybe that's what Carl needed too, is just kind of nobody treating him like any special, just kind of like, hey man, we'll see you again, and maybe they will someday.
What was that moment where Michonne was basically trying to tell him to go upstairs and convince them to change?
That was a weird moment.
She's talking to the survivor that's in the inside.
I forget
with the Two-Face.
He's a great character.
Two-Face.
The guy who has half his face burned.
He's a character that you really don't like in the 7th season, and then you start to like him in the 8th season.
I do love him. I think he's great. Anyway,
but did you at first?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
Yeah,
but you see
writing.
exactly. You see what he's been through. You see what he's had his wife taken away from him by
flaunted in front of his face. He's one of those characters. Sorry, right? He's just one of those characters that he's introduced as a typical bad guy, and you're like, screw this guy.
Yeah.
And then the more you find out about his backstory, and I'm sorry I forget his name, and I forget the actor's name at the moment.
Forgive us.
It's a little bit late here in the SLC, and I've got a little bit of a brain fart going on for a lot of things today. Maybe I've got early dementia setting in. I don't know, but maybe it's just constant bombardment with media. But his character's so interesting because once you find out about his backstory, like Ben was saying, his wife, Negan takes his wife away from him and then keeps her around like in front of him, flaunts it, and all these things that I could see where he doesn't want to go up against Negan because he knows he won't win. But then when he sees how persistent and capable Rick and his crew are, he decides to join the what he thinks is probably going to be the winning team. I think what we all think is going to be the winning team, and the fact that he's been helping them as an inside agent. I mean, of course, he's been found out, but I did get a kick out of, like you said, how Michonne's pleading with him, just irrationally based on emotion and what she's going through with this whole situation, to just, you're one of the survivors, go up there and make them stop. And at first it's aggressive.
Yeah.
At first it's aggressive, I'll beat you up if you don't. And then it turns into this like heartfelt please. She's just pleading with him, and there's nothing that he can do.
But I remember specifically going like, no, he can't do anything. There's nothing and it's like, Michonne, come on, you guys are friends. Anyway, it was just one of those. Yeah. It was one of those moments where I was just like, no, he can't go up there because they'll kill him, or they'll do, because at this point, Negan kind of knows he's a traitor, right? I don't know.
Yeah, they found him out.
Okay.
And the thing is too, is at the same time all that's happening, we actually see the rescue of Ezekiel, and it is just.
That was great.
They just laid the survivors to waste, Carol, and like hiding on the stage, and then how they
Savior Vivers,
the Savior survivors, Saviors,
the Savior Vivers from England, and
how the Saviors kind of wind up in the throne room, which is just an auditorium, and they assume that Carol and Morgan are outside, and they even detonate the door, blowing inwards. So they all, and then they just come out of nowhere backstage. on this like junior high school like stadium thing.
Yeah.
I just thought it was so clever.
Community theater moment. Community theater, like, and it made me think because there's like a backdrop of like a castle and all these random like scenery things still over there. Anyway, but yeah, it with the door getting blown like that, that was something that actually did completely take me by surprise, because usually on this show, if there's going to be explosions, you're going to know about it beforehand usually, or at least they do foreshadow it somehow, or like. Someone's like I got so and so M80s and the blah 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 blah, or they've got so and so number of plastique that they've acquired from the truck of the so and so. Anyway, it's one of those crazy things that great scene.
No real notice.
I was just so happy to see Ezekiel getting rescued by these two.
Yeah,
just badasses.
Yeah,
really cool.
And then of course this scene with Morgan and the staff. Everybody, I mean, they're fighting off everybody, but there's a guy that has been shot by Carol and Morgan who gets the drop on Morgan, and he's actually kind of kicking Morgan's ass until Morgan decides in a very graphic way to disembowel the guy with his own hand. Not the worst, most disgusting thing we've seen on the show, but still very intense moment that the 14-year-old gorehound in me wanted to like scream like yes, while the adult version of me is going, wow, that's going to leave some emotional scarring right there.
Yeah.
And clearly it does, because he's starting to reach the breaking point. And it's at that moment when he's chasing, when after that happens, I think everybody, Ezekiel and Carol are both, as well as the savior that had been holding him hostage, they're all a little bit freaked out by what he just did. So he's run away and he's trying to hunt him down and is toying with the notion that he's going to have to kill him. And what did you think of this scene with Carol trying to plead with him and Ezekiel?
It was really crazy. I think is this the scene coming up where the kid and the okay so yeah, she's basically just trying to calm him down, right? I mean, to calm Morgan down and
he's saying I have to do this even though he's got tears in his eyes.
Oh, that's right. He's trying to. Okay, that's right. This is the guy who had pled before, saying we can bring this back. We can bring it back the way it was. We can live like it was, even though it's okay. We can still make it work. I remember that guy, and it's like, I mean, it's so much of you, like, because for so many times it's been said, it's like you can't leave anyone alive. You can't leave anyone alive because they're gonna come back and blah blah blah. It's like the saviors are so brainwashed that they just want to keep up. But yeah, the stick in people's necks, and it's flooded in this episode. Tons of that.
Well, see, and earlier on, Carol is telling, what's the boy's name? There's a boy in the group who's been kind of following Carol around, and trying to learn from her and to be out here. And she tells him to go with the group, stay there, leave her alone, essentially, stay out of it, and he doesn't listen.
And I have to say, as soon as I saw him say, "I'm coming with you," it's like, I knew, that he's gonna separate from the group. Yeah. And that he's gonna he's gonna show up later, and I knew that he was, and it still surprised the heck out of me, because it comes anyway. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil that. But
well, a child's first kill should always be a little surprising. In this scene in particular,
oh my gosh,
kid's kind of traumatized from what he's done. Feels like he had no choice. He had to save these people that are taking care of him, that he's bonded with, that he cares about more than maybe Carol will let on. I think she cares about him a lot. It's this type of thing she wanted him to avoid. Obviously that scars a person, but the whole scene, don't look at him, look at me. The kid wants to see the damage that he's done. Just great emotion.
She's really trying to keep him really trying to keep his eyes away, even though he saw it's like, avert your eyes, kid type of thing, even though you just slaughtered someone through the back of their neck.
Yeah.
That's with a like a, what is it, like a.
It's like a staff that's been sharpened to a nice fine point that apparently can poke right through your throat. And then, of course, trying to find Rick at the last moment after Carl gives his speech about the future that he's seen, his revelation or vision, if you will. Rick decides we can't keep him down there, so they take him outside, and you kind of see what's happened to the town that they're in. With all the damaged buildings are on fire. They're trying to find a spot for him. They get, as in this image here shows, they get a little bit closer to the camera, and Carl just can't go any further. But they find that there's a house that's not on fire, just a few feet away. So they do take him to a nice place, better place to die, I suppose, than in a sewer.
Yeah.
And this is that scene where he's basically telling him, you gotta let me go.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna do, and that's this was even more heartbreaking. He's like, only have someone that loves you do it if you can't do it yourself. I can still do it myself. What? Anyway, like, dude, I don't know if I was, what is he, like 14, 15, and he's like 16, something like that. Like, it's like 16 years old, like realizing you're gonna become a zombie and you have to shoot yourself.
That's how much that maturity his character gained from living through all this experience. And this moment right here, after everything's come to pass, this is the emotional core of the episode. It's sad, so sad throughout, but this is the moment that just gets you like right here.
Because Michonne, it's what got me was Michonne's reaction, and throughout here, just have to say real quick on a side note, because I'm not sure we have an image for it or what, but what really got me is that they kept showing, like, there's like 3 or 4 times throughout, it flashes forward to them digging. They're digging the Carl's grave, and that made me.
Which we do have images of that coming up, but it's just Rick reacted in this scene how you would expect him to, and that's heartbreaking as it is. It's very good acting, but it's Michonne's reaction that just because you just feel that she's
it really is, because the way
she's heartbroken for Carl, but she's heartbroken for Rick and how it's tearing Rick apart and all that he's had to endure with losing his wife, his best friend, and now his son.
She's absolutely exploding with terror when she hears that. When you hear it too, you hear that it's even got a silencer on it,
Yeah.
And
that was the really surprising,
terrifying.
Because I expected it to be a bang, and instead you hear the and just man,
horrible,
so sad. And then
this is oh my god, I'm sorry.
It's very sad. I think the first time I ever experienced anything like this with storytelling, serialized storytelling or episodic storytelling with characters that I like, was a show called Robotech in the 80s. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because one of the central characters, who was kind of like the Han Solo of the show, like the Rogue, my favorite character, he was kind of like the older brother to the main character. Halfway through the series, he has a very good final fight and gets mortally wounded, and then just goes out in just a really nice dramatic way. And as a child, I'd never experienced that with any of my cartoon shows, most of which were advertisements for toys. And it I think profoundly changed my way of understanding what you can do with storytelling. And in a lot of ways, when this
I believe it's on
Netflix.
Robotech?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. I think it's probably on Amazon as well.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing space opera. We can talk about. In fact, if you want us to talk about Robotech, I'd love to talk about Robotech with you.
Let us know in the comments.
Got so much stuff to talk about on that one, so please comment. But this show tends to do that, give me that same feeling at times when there's characters. Like, there's been a lot of characters to come and go in this show. I mean, a lot. I think there's only, 4 original cast members left? But, so not every character that gets dispatched, you necessarily are torn up about or really even care. But, and then will come a time when same thing with Lost, and you just build up your own relationship with these characters, and then they strip them away from you. It's just very heartbreaking.
Original characters that I miss, and you're gonna do yours next, Joe.
Sure.
Original characters I miss: Glenn.
Yeah.
And I feel so awful, but I can't remember the little sister, Maggie's little sister. Why can't I remember? The one who sings. She sung in several episodes. Great singer. She's actually like an awesome recording artist.
To be.
Yeah. So anyway, she's amazing, and I love her voice. But I was devastated when she passed, and of course Glenn. You don't think because everybody knew Glenn was going. Because everybody knew that he was going to go, who read the comics, because that's what happens in the comics, and we get a double whammy with that. So anyway,
that one was like that whole Glenn being dispatched was almost just like the comic,
and especially beforehand, it's like after everything that Glenn has been through, it's like he gets away by staying under the dumpster for I don't know how long. Anyway, we don't need to dwell on that. It was one of those things where
I miss Glenn big time.
That was a good fake out too, because a lot of people thought that's where he was going to die, you know, was when the dude fell on top of him, and then they, you know.
Yeah. And
A
you
lot
think,
of people thought he was going to die there.
and I think that was a cliffhanger. That was an
Mid-season
That was a
cliffhanger.
mid-season cliffhanger, and everybody thought he was gonna everybody thought literally, he's dead. That's what he thought. And by the way, in case you're wondering, any of you wondering, he is the voice of Keith on the new Voltron series as well.
Who, Glenn?
Glenn is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay.
he does the.
I still have to get into that. I have not been able to
It's
get into the
extraordinary.
Voltron yet.
Anyway.
So I'm going to have to say that I miss Dale. I liked Dale a lot. I also like the actor who plays him.
I don't remember her name.
He's the one who owned the RV.
Oh yeah.
And that actor, sorry, I'm going to have to resort to some notes here. Jeffrey DeMune. As we all know, Frank Darabont directed the pilot episode, and this is the man responsible for Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, The Majestic, and The Mist. And I love The Mist. Not the TV series, but the movie that's verbatim to the novella by Stephen King. Jeffrey DeMune is so good as Dale because he's like the conscience of the crew for a long time. And he's a regular.
He's the voice of reason, or
Yeah.
he's literally reminding, "Hey, everybody," or whatever.
He's literally in every single one of Frank Darabont's films. And so that's how I've gotten to know the guy. Now when I see him and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, he was in The Hitchhiker, or The Hitcher, and he's in the X-Files Fight the Future, and all that kind of stuff. But I really miss Abraham. I liked Abraham. In fact, I went into the 7-Eleven today to get a cup of coffee, and the guy that's working there said, "You look familiar." And I said, "Oh, well, I come in here quite a bit. I got one of those faces." He said, "No, you look like that dude on The Walking Dead with the mustache." And I said, "Abraham?" And he said, "Yeah, if you just did your hair up." I've been called, like, people have said I look like Simon Pegg. People have said I look like Kiefer Sutherland. My mom says I look like Eric Stoltz in Mask. Bad joke, sorry. But this is the first time anyone's ever said I look like Abraham. So thank you. I was very appreciative.
That's
of that.
That's really cool. Okay, so for Halloween this year,
And T-Dog.
George,
I miss T-Dog.
Joe's gonna be Abraham, and I'll be. I don't know.
I'll be
Just be
someone
Rick.
stupid.
Be Rick, and all night long you can
I'll
be
be
all. Carl, no. Carl. Sorry. I love it, but it is just one of those things I poke fun of. But these scenes right here, holy cow.
Anyway, yeah.
Wow.
Powerful television.
Sorry, everybody. I know that it's like a melancholic episode and everything, and we're trying to keep it light. It's like we just cry our eyeballs out if we got sad, because we are already sad from this episode. It's such a sad
Episode.
Well, and that it's even kind of sadder is that this image right here was one that AMC was using to promote the mid-season. So like,
So
way to
it's like
start
they
it
know.
off with a
You know
depressing note.
You know someone's gonna die from that crap.
And here we go into what we said earlier. We're going to talk a little bit about. This will be the final part here. We're going to talk a little bit about Carl's vision of what he sees in the future.
Yeah, this was actually really good. This was actually really cool because it's like you're led to believe, and we had seen glimpses of this since the beginning of this season. Is that right? Am I right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So you literally think it's the future because they're playing. Darn it, I can't remember the song they're playing. Anyway, it's kind of a famous song, and Rick gets up, he's got a big beard, etc. All these things, and you see that it's in the future and all these things, and so you think that it's our future, even though it's Carl's.
It turns out to be Carl's
Imaginative vision thing.
Which is funny because that's two things they've been kind of tossing around through most of the season. Is the image, like we said at the beginning, with Rick, kind of teary-eyed, with the weird colored reflections on his face, and then this image of him in bed, very calm, the gray hair,
Just
beard.
and happy.
Yeah.
He I mean, I wouldn't call it joy, but he's pretty happy. I mean, well, maybe he's pretty happy.
I don't know,
He's
man.
content.
Look at this.
He's content in all these scenes. Yeah, he's content with everything. So, but for so long, I had thought of, maybe this scene is connected to his, my mercy outweighs my wrath moments in these scenes that you see in the future with the reflections of things on his tears. What imagery there? Anyway, just crazy how I wanted those. I thought those things might be connected. Obviously, they're not connected.
Very interesting
Well,
stuff.
we don't.
so-
That's the interesting thing is we don't know yet. We might not even know by the end of
Right.
this season because it could carry over into what I believe, and I don't think it's confirmed yet, or maybe it is. If it is, please let me know or let us know. But I believe that next season's going to be their final season, the ninth and final season, or maybe they're going to do a full 10. I feel like if you do 9, you might as well do 10. I know Seinfeld and the X-Files both called it quits at 9, but really, 10 is a nice round number. But
Once again, I love the show. I think it's getting better.
better. So if they do 10, I'm sure it can just get better.
oh yeah, well I mean this leaves it open for a couple of years anyways because
Yeah.
what's really cool about this, whether it ends up actually just being Carl's fantasy or if it becomes the reality of the show, I don't care if they're letting us. If it is becoming the reality of the show, I don't mind that they're letting us know this far in advance because it's so hopeful where you're seeing enemies become allies because it's really the fight for human survival, not so much control, not so much zombies. It really is the fight for the human race, and it's just a very powerful thing. And as much as I love this image, it's the next to final image of the show that really made me kind of stand up and go, "What the?" You know what I mean? And it's
That was
this. Judith
Yeah.
making the rounds. She talks to Eugene, in a really nice, sweet moment, and she's with Rick, and then all of a sudden she goes up to this guy and says, "Hi," and it stands up in his Negan, and he's got that Negan face, and he goes, "Well, hello, darling."
Doesn't he give Judith a hug too, or
No, he just
he
says,
just like gives her an
yeah.
apple or something?
No, that's Eugene who
that's
gives
right.
her
Okay,
the
that's
apple.
right. Yeah, that was another weird thing. I'm sorry, but that was another weird thing seeing Eugene there. I guess I can forgive Eugene. I guess I can. Part of
I will
because
if they do.
yeah, it's one of those things. Like I honestly, there's a huge part of me. Is just like, no, you cannot. You will not forgive it.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
I really anyway.
Part of me, as much as I love the Svilby or the mullet, as it's called, and the weird idiosyncratic way of speaking, Eugene's a character that has gotten on my nerves quite more often than amused me, especially the last season.
And I think you were saying before how it's like he's endearing and something and quirky and you used some other word and I can't remember what it was, but it's something that was, he's a good guy and everything, even though he pretended to be the genius who knew that he was.
He's a good guy, but at the same time, I also think, he summed it up himself in the last episode that he was really in, where he basically says that he's out for himself, he'll do whatever he can to survive. So at that point, I do kind of think, well, if he gets killed, no big loss.
And yeah, it is one of those things where you have no idea. I have no idea if I will actually care if he passes. I mean, he is just a survivor.
Yeah.
Just on Negan, I don't know, man. Look at that face. He's so full of love. I guess there.
I don't know. That's the thing. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan, right? Watchmen, The Burning Zone. What was the show he was on with Halle Berry? 2 years ago, the 2 seasons. Extant, great series. Spielberg produced, short-lived. Played a really cool guy, very likable guy. But for some reason, when he's playing Negan, even when he's trying to be good, it still seems very evil to me. But that's just because of the terrible things Negan has done, and hopefully that'll change. But overall, I'm going to say, again, one of the best dramatic episodes of the series run, definitely of this season, because it really tears at the heartstrings without being over sentimental. It's very, very emotional, but it's very compelling, and the characters are just wonderful.
Horribly sad and tragic, but beautiful and amazing at the same time.
So on that note, we should give a final farewell to Carl.
Yeah.
Gonna give a final farewell. Carl, we salute you. And salute for Carl. And
Thanks again for joining us here at the Fanaddicts of Film. We're trying to make more content. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. And for all of you subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing and helping us to make
This a reality. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks for listening again, and everything that Ben said I agree with completely, and hopefully you'll join us next time. And again, as always, let us know what you think in the comments section, and if you don't like some of the things that we're talking about or things we want to discuss, please, it's an open forum.